welcome to another episode of Operation Homefront. I am Pastor Elliott. I'll be asking the questions tonight, and tonight's guest is Marge Freeman. Marge is actually the instigator, or should I say the inspiration for Operation Homefront, and it is wonderful to have her with us today. Welcome, Marge.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. So let's get started, Marge. Tell me, when and where were you born?
Oh, I was born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1934. Am I telling stories?
Not quite yet, but 1934 in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yes.
So at the outbreak of the war in 1941, at least the outbreak for the U.S., that made you about 7 or so years old, correct?
Right.
Yes? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So tell me, what was your first memory of World War II?
First memory was on a Sunday afternoon. My parents all shook up and wondering and listening to the radio, and Pearl Harbor, that was December 7.
Mm-hmm.
They originally thought it was an Orson Welles joke when they heard it early in the morning. So we went to church. We did everything we normally do on a Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
To church, got home, had dinner. My dad turned on the radio, and this Pearl Harbor thing is still going on. And they turned white.
And then
the phone started ringing. At this point now, we had moved out of Cleveland, and we were out in the country, about 20, 25 miles out of the city. So we were in a very rural area.
Was it a different town then?
Yeah, it was Willoughby. Well, it was a township. It wasn't even a town, it was a township.
A township?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So you thought, your parents thought it actually might be another Orson Welles gag, huh?
Oh yeah, they thought it was a joke. They
much
just
like War of the Worlds, huh?
just did what they normally do on a Sunday morning. They went to church, Sunday school and church.
How about that? I hadn't heard that before. That's an interesting reaction. Okay.
Well, I asked them later, much later. I said, why weren't we aware of Pearl Harbor and all, like Sunday morning when all these other people were? And that's when they told me. Well, they thought it was a joke.
Okay. Well, a lot of that might have to do with the time difference between Hawaii and Cleveland.
That could be, yeah.
There's about 4 hours or 5 hours difference, so it might have been afternoon before you first heard about it.
It could have been.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me, when it came to going back to school the next day, do you have any memories from that first day at school after Pearl Harbor?
No, things were not different in school.
Mm-hmm.
Not right away. Later on, they sold war bonds, and we were told how we could bring coins in every week and eventually get $18.75 bought a $25 war bond. So soon, once things got organized and things got settled down, this program came into school. But at first and second grade, it didn't interfere with our studies. We didn't really get into war at school, only the war effort, the bonds, and do what you can to help.
Okay, over the next 5 years, let's say 4 or 5 years that the war progressed, were you enlisted to work in any way in your community?
I wasn't, but my parents, my father was what they call an air raid warden.
He was an air raid
Air raid warden, and we had blackouts every so often.
Mm-hmm.
And he would be one of the men that wandered down the street. Of course, I said we lived in the country, no street lights and no sidewalks. It was dark, but they had I can still remember these little lights on their hats, and all you saw. Everything was dark. Everybody had to turn their lights off, and everything was dark. And you'd see these lights coming up and down the street. And I don't remember how long it did, but they were out there. If we got bombed, and they actually had an air raid, they were there to help and do what they could for anything that was destroyed or any persons that were hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mother went to Red Cross, and she learned how to take care of broken bones, take care of injuries, and all this kind of stuff. And we were her dummies. She practiced on us.
She practiced
on us. I can still laying on the floor, and she's putting splints on our arms and moving our legs, and Yeah, so that's what my parents, and then my dad worked in a factory for GE that turned to the war effort.
Oh, okay.
So that probably is what kept him out of the service.
I see. So do you know what they made at GE where he worked?
No, I don't. You know, I
Okay.
never asked at that point.
I can understand. You were just a young child.
Yeah.
That would make perfect sense.
Yeah, no, I don't know what but they changed over. It was Cleveland Lamp. Well, later Cleveland Lamp. So they made the makings to make lamp bulbs, which we call light bulbs, the lamps, and that's what they did. But what they changed over to for the war effort, I don't know. But that's what kept him out of the service.
Okay.
Because they would get these little cards that tell their rating. 1A meant you were ready to go. You better be packing your bags.
I see.
If you got a 1A.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So did your mother do anything else in the community besides the Red Cross? Did she take in other persons, children from other families to provide daycare or anything like that?
Mamas didn't work back then.
I know.
They didn't need any daycare. Oh, they were all home. Even the women that I knew, the families that I knew, the ladies did not work. They were not Rosie the Riveters.
Okay,
they were all, they were home. They were stay-at-home moms.
So in the more rural townships, they were more stay-at-home moms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think maybe the people that lived right in Cleveland, in town, those women were more apt to go to work. So many women out in our area didn't drive. They didn't have transportation to go in and get jobs.
Okay. Did your worship life at church change at all?
During the war, I mean, there were families whose husbands and men went to war, and of course they were prayed for, and it was talked about, and we worried about them. My parents did. A lot of them I didn't know, just knew the families, but yeah, definitely. And there was, where I remember vividly is when bad things were happening over there, when maybe we lost a battle or something, and there would be prayers and people would be talking about it.
Okay, so it came into the prayers of the church mostly.
Right, yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
How about at school? You said initially things really didn't change a whole lot, but over the next 4 years, up through about 6th grade or so, did you notice anything different?
No, I don't know if they just purposely did not talk about it, but we really, in school, there was not anything at all.
Not a whole lot
no.
going on at school.
No.
Okay. Did you do any collecting of scrap metal?
My dad did.
Your dad did?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and my dad, there was a food problem. We wanted to have enough food to send to our men and women that were overseas. So he turned a work shed into a chicken coop.
Oh, really?
And we had chickens.
And you had chickens.
Chickens.
So you provided eggs.
We provided eggs to the whole neighborhood.
How about that?
Yeah. Yeah. And chickens, too.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Got to have a little meat now and then.
And I don't remember where he stored his scrap metal, but they were saving it. And every now and again, they would take it someplace.
Okay. They take it to a collection facility.
Yeah.
Okay, neat.
Yeah, I had forgotten about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you have a victory garden?
Oh, golly, we had a victory garden.
How big was it?
Oh, well, we had a half acre, and it was probably almost half of the half acre. Oh, it was big.
That is pretty
And
big.
they had fruit trees. We had fruit trees and a victory garden. And it was funny because I was just talking to somebody the other day, and they had not heard the expression victory garden. And he was like in their 60s, young. And just never heard, what is a victory garden? He said, I thought everybody knew what a victory garden is. But yes, we did, and we all had to work in it. We had to pull the weeds. We had to pick the veggies when they were ready.
Of course.
And help my mother can.
Ah.
Yeah.
So you learned how to can at a very young age, huh?
Yes.
How about that?
It wasn't fun.
Wasn't
No,
fun?
that wasn't fun.
Okay.
No.
So, Marge, I know you as a pretty creative person. When did you start playing the piano and organ?
Oh, my golly. Well, before I could even play the piano, we had a roller piano, player piano. And I used to have my mother put the rolls in, and I would get down on the floor and pump it with my hands.
Okay.
So the music was there from the time I was really little. And they wanted me to read first. So somewhere along first grade, because I never went to kindergarten. We didn't have kindergarten back then at where we lived. In first grade, after I could read, that's when I started with the piano.
So during the war then, you were actively learning and playing the piano.
Oh, yeah.
Did you play it at all for any civic events?
No, at school though, I played, accompanied, about the time I was in maybe third or fourth grade, I was able to accompany some of the little plays or some of the things that we did.
Okay.
Oh, and I had a friend that, we got into singing, and I'd sit at the piano and play, and we would sing duets. And somebody heard us. They had us do it quite often at some of the little programs at school.
Okay.
So I mean, I loved it from the time I was little.
Very neat.
Yeah,
Very
fun
neat.
stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move a little bit forward into the war, probably when you're a little older and can remember a little bit more. Is there a memory that comes to mind that really struck you?
You know, seeing the men in uniform, and I don't remember too many women. I honestly don't, but seeing the men in uniform when they came home and just there in town, just doing what they had to do, and then they would have to go back again. But just seeing all these men in the Army or Navy uniforms, it just, I don't know, you wonder, they're not home like my dad is home. What happens now when they have to go back?
Did you ever get a chance to talk to one of them?
No, I was too scared.
Too scared.
Too scared. I didn't.
Marge Freeman scared.
Yeah. No, I had two uncles.
Oh, you did?
But once they went overseas, they didn't come home until after the war was over.
Okay.
In fact, I had one uncle that was stationed in Washington, and he worked on the atomic bomb. And there was a cell.
Wow.
I never knew this until after he died. Never talked about the war. But his son found papers after he died, and this cell was called Mel's cell. And his name was Melvin.
How about that?
And it was one of the cells that they used in making the atomic bomb.
How about
Never
that?
knew that until much, much later. And then my other uncle was in Germany.
Okay.
And he sent me V-mails.
V-mails.
And I never saved any of them. All these V-mails. And I had a swastika that he took off a German soldier. And there was other. I gave it to my grandson. He was very, very interested in it. In fact, he was going to put that, there was something else too, on a plaque and hang it up, and they decided that is not the best thing to do.
Probably
put
not.
a Nazi.
Probably not.
But my uncle sent me that, and I can remember he made a fur coat. He liked to sew. He made a fur coat and a little muff. Now, people in Florida wouldn't know what that is, but it's a round fur thing that you stick your hands into.
Sure, of course.
And he took it off a coat of a German soldier that he killed. The inside lining of that coat was fur. And this sounds so weird, but...
It does sound weird. So would you tell me a little bit more about V-mail?
V-mail?
Yeah, was it just a regular letter, or was it something specific?
Oh, yeah. Oh, they would write you a letter, but then the government went through it and crossed out things, and it was little like this. You almost had to use a magnifying glass to read it. Just a little tiny thing. Okay. And we call it V-mail. Maybe I don't know what the V stood for.
I would think
but
for victory.
The government went over everything that was written.
Okay.
By a soldier or sailor that was written to you during the war.
So with your uncle overseas, did you ever pack a care package for him or something like that?
My mom and they probably did. Yeah. Oh, they were always sending things. They bake things. They bake cookies, and they were always sending things to him.
How about that?
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
And I recently, it was when my parents celebrated their 80th anniversary, which had been much, much later after the war. My aunt died, and he remarried, and he was there. There was contact all those years, even though my aunt, he was my aunt's husband,
Okay.
so, an in-law, and they stayed in touch, and he
wonderful.
brought cookies for that anniversary. In thanking all that they were sent to him, he brought a container of cookies.
How about that?
At their 80th anniversary. So they were married in 1930. So 80 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
2010, huh?
Yeah. Little thing. You're picking my brain.
Well, that's the idea. So, okay. Move a little bit forward into the war. What was VE Day like in
That was-
Willoughby Township?
That was a big celebration, and surprisingly, without the communication we have now, there was some kind of phone tree, because the pastor called somebody called somebody. That night we had church service, and let me tell you, it was packed.
It was packed.
It was packed. Yeah,
Service
and that's
of
my big
celebration.
memory of VE Day. That all of them we went to
church.
The war in Germany is over. All the songs you brought up, music, the songs from Second World War that
Tell me
we
about them.
sang. Well, let's remember Pearl Harbor. That-
Okay.
And praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. Yeah, praise the Lord and
I've heard
and we'll
that
all
that
be
is
free.
I've heard that is a song, but I have actually never
Oh
heard
yeah,
the
you
song.
look it up, Google it.
Oh, okay.
Don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me.
Okay.
I'll walk alone. You've probably heard that one. When the lights go on again all over the world, Von Monroe.
Wow.
When the lights go on again all over the world, meaning the war would be over, no more blackouts and
Right. Any other music? 'Cause this is fascinating.
White Cliffs of Dover.
White Cliffs of Dover. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there was a lot, but those were the ones that really
Those are the ones that stuck.
stuck.
How
Yeah.
neat. And that was in the church service.
No.
Oh, good.
Oh no.
So you did
no,
have a
no.
pastor
We
that
sang hymns.
stuck-
I mean, this was 1941 hymnal. We didn't deviate from.
Didn't deviate from the
In fact, he
hymnal.
probably used. I mean, I was young. He probably used the order of Vespers.
Okay.
Is what he probably did, singing all the chants.
How about
Oh
that?
yeah. Yeah.
Pretty
But
neat.
he had. That's the first and maybe only time I can remember that he had tears. Yeah, he had tears. So did a lot of other people.
I'll bet.
You're choking me up.
I'm sorry. Well, I understand VJ Day was quite the day.
Oh golly.
Tell
I
me
will
more.
never forget that day. No, nobody went to bed. The cars and motorcycles and traffic through our little road it wasn't paved. It was a dirt road.
Okay.
All night long, family, friends, and family came out to our house because we were out in the country. We were up all night. We had a swing in our apple tree, and I'm swinging all night long with friends. And then somewhere in the middle of the night, 2, 3 in the morning, I hear my dad going out to the chicken coop. I hear the chickens. He killed 4 or 5 chickens.
Oh, he did.
And they fixed them. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, we're sitting in the house eating chicken.
How about
with all
that?
these other people.
How about that? All
I
these
won't-
other people were family?
Family and friends.
Family and friends,
Yeah.
okay.
And I mean, they were kids. They had children too. Oh, yeah.
How
Yeah.
about that?
I will never forget that day. I mean, you talk about celebration. Ooh.
It was pull out all the stops, huh?
All the stops, all night. And I don't remember if anybody slept the next day because my dad had to go to work. Then no, the shops didn't
Had
stop.
to change that shop back to light bulbs, didn't he?
And you know, I don't remember going to church after VJ Day like
Like you did on
we
VE
did on
Day.
VE Day. Yeah,
Okay.
it was just big celebration. Cars all night long up and down the street,
How
hooping
about
and
that?
hollering.
How
New
about
York City had nothing compared to little old Willoughby Township.
Well, but that sounds wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah. How do I remember that?
Okay, do you have any other memories you might like to share?
Oh, that probably. Oh, tomorrow I'll think of a lot of them probably. But right now, that kind of.
Did you have any dances?
Any?
Any dances in the town?
Oh, we had dances every Friday night at
Every
one of the
Friday.
grade schools
Okay.
with the disc jockey.
Oh, really?
Yeah, every Friday night. We had.
Were they
we
called
had dan-
disc jockeys back then?
Yes, Yes.
They were?
They were called disc jockeys, yeah.
How about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, that's what they were called. And they, of course, they had just the 78
Records.
records, yeah. Yeah, and they talked, you know, a little conversation between. But yeah, and it was jitterbug. I mean, it was a different kind of dancing than what they, and you danced with somebody.
Sure.
You didn't just stand around and wiggle.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah, but a lot of dancing. Of course, my parents were dancers, so I was involved